Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, in his own words, finding the spotlight isn't about standing in it. There's so much to be gained from working with people who support each other to achieve great things. And to say that Sir Richard Branson has achieved great things would be an understatement. Judging by the reaction to this interview announcement, with hundreds of listener questions submitted, you like me are incredibly excited for this interview. With over 50 years in business and 40 companies worldwide, Sir Richard Branson, you are an icon of the business world, and we're delighted that you have joined us here on Business Matters.
Always good to talk to you.
Richard, I'd like to start by speaking to you about your latest venture, Virgin Voyages. So what inspired you to get involved in the highly competitive cruise industry?
The same reason that we've got involved in pretty well every business in my lifetime. So we got involved in the airline business because, I got bumped off a flight and had to hire a plane to get to where I wanted to go. And airlines did bump people. And I felt maybe we could create our own airline, Virgin Atlantic Airways, and try to treat people well. And with cruises, it wasn't something that enormously appealed to me, but I thought if we could create the kind of cruise company that myself and my friends would like to go on, initially make it adults only, so it would be fun for adults to go on it, that we could create something really different and something that addressed all the sort of issues that people disliked about cruises. And I think the team at Virgin Voyages have done a fantastic job in doing that. And they've won pretty well every award there is to win. Best cruise line, best staff, best everything, best food. And really proud of what they've created.
So for those that haven't travelled on Virgin Voyages as of yet, what is Virgin Voyages doing differently?
Well, down to basics like no buffet. I mean, it's got some of the best restaurants in the world on the ship. Lots of different kinds of restaurants. We've got 1,200 delightful staff from 84 different nations working on the ship. We've got great entertainment, workout facilities, fitness facilities, running tracks. We've created, lovely places on the route like Bimini Beach Club, which is a fantastic, fun place for people to go and chill out from the ship. We visit many destinations. I mean, we do both the Caribbean and the Mediterranean. We're now about to send a ship to Australia to do Australia. Yeah, we got one or two other tricks up our sleeve, which we'll be announcing soon.
And what are the greatest lessons that you've learned in business over the past 50 years?
To realise that all a business is a group of people. So everybody can have a ship, or not everybody, but a lot of people can have a ship, a lot of people can have a plane, a lot of people can have a train, but it's the people on these things that matter. So, if you can inspire and motivate your team, then you can create miracles. If they genuinely feel they've been given the tools to do a great job, they will smile, they'll be happy, they'll be proud, and then you as a customer will have a great experience.
And how do you go about building that team and cultivating that culture?
Well, I think it goes back to the Virgin roots. I remember on the very first Virgin Atlantic plane, looking around the cabin and thinking, wow, this is great. They're smiling, they're happy. But can this last, 10, 20, 30, and now nearly 40 years? And it has, because I think they're proud of the company. They're proud of its history. They're proud of the fact that, when British Airways tried to push us out of business, that we fought, we survived. They're proud of the fact that we got through COVID, which with all the planes grounded. They're proud of the fact we got through 9/11. I mean, there's been lots of challenges thrown at them. And I think that the companies have come out the stronger and still offering a great service.
And of course, the Virgin Group is involved in so many different sectors and industries at this stage. But how do you go about identifying new business opportunities?
By and large, from frustration. I mean, I've always wanted to go to space. It was obvious that governments weren't interested in us going to space. And so, we set up Virgin Galactic, and I had the great privilege of having the most extraordinary day of my life going to space. And over the next very few weeks, we're going to be starting to take other people to space. And hopefully this year will be the start of a really exciting time for Virgin Galactic.
Provide us with an insight into how it felt on that particular day going to space.
It's so difficult to explain. I mean, it was, first of all, I had my grandkids there, I had my children there. From the second I woke up, this was going to be the best day of my life, best day of our lives. And, we'd spent 20 years building this company and these spaceships. And, I was surprised by Elon when I got out of bed, which was very sweet of him. And it wasn't long into the day that we were going from 0 to 3,500 miles an hour in 8 seconds. Wonderful sort of, the roar of the rocket, the pressure on the chest, and then the complete silence of space and the magnificent views back to this beautiful Earth, and unbuckling and just floating out from the seat and realizing, yeah, we were there. It was just extraordinary.
And Richard, when Virgin goes into a new industry, talk to me about your approach to innovation.
Well, there's no point in just doing something that's been done before. You've got to try to innovate and create something very different. And I think we're lucky that we've got years of wonderful designers and innovators who work for us. So when we designed the Virgin Voyages, the cruise line, we literally took a blank sheet of paper. We drew 2 lines, all the things not to do, which other cruise ships maybe are doing, and all the things to do. And then our designers set about creating magic. And you can walk into, I don't know, the Virgin Upper Class Lounge at Heathrow, or a Virgin plane, or a Virgin Voyages cruise ship, or a Virgin spaceship, and it just feels very, very different. Our Virgin Galactic spaceship is how you would imagine as a kid a spaceship should be. It's not a rocket on the ground that launches. It's a proper spaceship. You travel in the spaceship, you land in the spaceship, and it's it's a great experience.
How has your dyslexia acted as your superpower over the years?
I think the good thing about dyslexia is that, and I'm proud to say I'm a dyslexic thinker, is that you're not necessarily good at conventional learning methods in conventional schools. By not being good at that, you end up excelling at things that you are good at. And, I did actually leave school quite young because of my dyslexia, and my education was the education of life. And the things that I'm good at, I excelled at. Things I wasn't good at, I think I was quite a good delegator at, because I had to be. And therefore I surrounded myself with great people.
And at 72 years young, what motivates you, and how has that changed over the years?
I am still as motivated to create things I can be proud of. I still love learning from people. I still love meeting people. I still love listening to all sorts of different people, and every single person teaches you something. I still am determined to change the world for the better. As a teenager, I set up a centre for young people to try to help young people with problems. Now we set up bigger, maybe global organizations like the Oceanic Elders or the Global Drug Commission, trying to get governments to treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem. Or, for instance, the Elders that we set up with Mandela and Archbishop Tutu and Kofi Annan, that Mary Robinson is now chairing and doing an incredible job in trying to bring an end to conflicts, trying to speak out on climate change, setting up organizations like Girls Not Brides, pushing very, very hard for equality for women and general understanding of other minority groups that are left out. And so we've been unbelievably lucky to have Mary Robinson as chair of the Elders.
We're very proud of Mary Robinson here in Ireland, of course. What do you admire about her specifically?
Everything, really, to be honest. I know it sounds, but her humour, her relentless pursuit of justice, her relentless pursuit for women's rights, being very outspoken on issues like climate change, never stopping. She works day and night relentlessly. She has the most wonderful husband who is incredibly supportive of her work. Wonderful family as well. But anyway, she's just one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met.
So what do you see as the future of entrepreneurship?
When I started as an entrepreneur 55 years ago, there was 2 of us in the UK. There was Anita Roddick, who was the woman entrepreneur, and Richard Branson, who was the male entrepreneur. And if anybody wanted to interview an entrepreneur, they would ring up one or other of us. In the last 55 years, entrepreneurism has exploded. And that is wonderful, because I think it is entrepreneurs that change the world for the better. Because if you do not create a business that is making people's lives better, you don't have a business. So there are lots and lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs out there, or young people, who are trying to look for gaps in the market and see how they can do it better than it's been done before. And the world has, I think, generally become a better place because of it. We have something called startup loans in the UK, where we have 4,000 young entrepreneurs that we mentor and help get their businesses up and running. We do the same in the British Virgin Islands. We have a startup loan program there, and yeah, it's magical what a lot of these young people, or not so young people, are managing to achieve.
And do you think that entrepreneurs get the credit that they deserve?
I think by and large, I think people do understand by and large that entrepreneurs are making a difference for them. If somebody knows somebody that's running a little business, they are an entrepreneur. And but even if it's there's a local grocery shop, and collectively they are the people that employ the most people in the world, and they're the people that make the real difference. I'm afraid that governments are, again, just a group of people, but they're not really equipped to run businesses. I mean, and mainly because government ministers are generally only in the job for 3 or 4 years, and if that, and that's not their skill. That's not what their skill should be, and that should be left up to entrepreneurs.
And looking back at your own career in business over the past 55 years, is there anything that you would have done differently if you could go back and do it all over again?
We've had in the process some spectacular failures, and all I can say is you have to just learn from them, brush yourself down, and move forward. And I'm fortunate. I'm the kind of person that I will fight tooth and nail to make sure something succeeds. But if it fails, I won't dwell on it at all. I'll just move forward onto the next project. And any entrepreneur is going to have failures. I mean, you can't just go through life without any failures at all. So you just have to accept that you are going to have the occasional failure in the way.
And what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs and business leaders this morning?
Screw it, just do it.
One question that I was asked to put to you by many listeners over the past number of weeks is your approach to problem solving. When you're faced with a problem, how do you go about addressing it?
I'll work day and night to solve a problem. I'll rally, my best team of people around me to help solve the problem. But if it's a problem that ultimately does not get solved, I will not dwell on it. I will pick myself up the next day and move forward. And so I think the main lesson is just do everything you can to sort out the problem. Look at every which way. I'll give you one fun example. We did a team of people to develop seatback videos for planes, and we just couldn't get the $10 million to put them on our planes. We were a very, very small airline, but we wanted to be 5 years ahead of British Airways in having seatback videos on our planes. And I was sitting down trying to think, how can I get $10 million to put seatback videos in all our planes? And then I had an idea, and I rang up Boeing and I said, you've got some brand new 747-400s. I noticed you're trying to sell. If we switched our whole fleet out for your 747-400s, would you like to sell them to us? And they said, yes, that would be great. Would you lend us the money for it? Yes, would lend you most of the money for it. Would you put seatback videos in on all these planes? Yes, we'd be delighted to put seatback videos on all these planes. So I ended up borrowing $2 billion in order to get a $10 million loan for the seatback videos. So it's trying all the time to think that horrible phrase outside the box to get your problems solved.
Don't think big, think bigger. That's really the message, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, these are big figures, and it's all relative. I mean, the figures I used to think about. Well, I mean, if I go right back to my childhood, was how can I find some money to put coins in a phone box so I could sell advertising for my magazine, and that all came about because my mum found a necklace and handed it into the police, and nobody claimed it, and she was given the necklace, and she sold it for a couple of £100, and she kindly gave me the money for my time in the phone box. And so, Virgin literally started, with that £200 from a necklace. And, and obviously one thing led on to another. And, some things went well and some things not quite so well. But generally speaking, I think we're quite proud of what's been created.
And of course, you've had a lifelong love affair with risk and taking risk. But how do you evaluate risk?
I think ideally you've got to try to protect the downside in every move you make. So, like when we started the airline with one plane, I did a deal with Boeing whereby we could hand that plane back at the end of the first year if people didn't like the airline. Unfortunately, they did like the airline, and then we got a couple more planes. And so you just got to make sure that anything you do is not going to put everything else at risk. But take risks, but make sure that if it goes wrong, you can afford for it to go wrong.
What other sectors do you think are ripe for disruption right now?
Well, the world needs clean energy and tons of it. So, I mean, I think, like most homes in Ireland, I suspect emit more energy than they need. And, so if somebody was to set up a business in Ireland, going around showing people how to reduce their energy emissions, maybe taking a small percentage of what they saved, I mean, that would be doing a great service to the world and a great service to the individual and a great service to themselves. So it's trying to think of things like that is a win-win all round.
And finally, of course, this week saw you opening a new hotel in New York, but it also saw you filing for bankruptcy for Virgin Orbit. What type of a week was it for you in that respect, and how disappointed were you in relation to Virgin Orbit?
So obviously delighted that we took on some hundreds of people to launch a magnificent hotel in New York, and we were there to celebrate that. Virgin Orbit's been really tough. I mean, we had 4 very successful flights putting satellites into space, and then we came to the UK and to do the 5th flight out of Cornwall, and it didn't go right, and it was at a time when the team were fundraising, and the fundraising, I mean, the market is not good, and it hasn't gone well, and we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. I mean, there's still a chance that something may emerge, but it's one of those tough things that can happen in business, and something you just have to accept on occasions will happen.
Well, if you've just tuned in, it was an honour and privilege to bring you that interview from the legendary Sir Richard Branson. And if you would like to share your thoughts on the interview, feel free to email us here at Business Matters by emailing businessmatters@southeastradio.ie.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast